My name is Kenneth William Hargrove, and if you'd asked me 5 years ago what my life would look like at 78, I would have told you something simple. Watching baseball with my son, teaching my grandkids to fish, maybe taking a road trip out to see the Grand Canyon one last time before my knees gave out completely. I wouldn't have told you I'd be sitting in a lawyer's office on a cold Tuesday morning in February, signing papers to sell the house my wife and I bought in 1979, the house where we raised Derek, where Margaret died in our bedroom 6 Octobers ago with her hand in mine. But here I was. Mr. Hargrove, you're sure about this? Craig Stevenson, my attorney for the past 20 years, looked at me over his reading glasses. He was younger than me by 15 years, but had gone completely gray. You don't have to rush this decision. Your son... I'm sure, Craig, I said, keeping my voice steady. I've thought about it plenty. He nodded slowly, sliding the papers across his oak desk. The office smelled like old books and coffee. Outside the window, Dayton looked gray and tired under February clouds, naked trees lining the streets of our little suburb. I picked up the pen, a nice one, heavy, and signed my name 4 times. Each signature felt like closing a door, but not in a sad way, more like finally stepping out of a burning building. I didn't tell Craig the whole story. Didn't tell him about the barbecue 7 months ago, about standing there with a paper plate of potato salad while my daughter-in-law Jenna stood 15 feet away, speaking rapid Mandarin to her parents, her brother, and her sister-in-law. Didn't tell him how her mother, a tiny woman with expensive jewelry and a permanent look of disapproval, had glanced at me and said something that made the whole group laugh. And I definitely didn't tell him that I understood every single word. 看他已经糊涂了，很快我们就把他送养老院，终于能得到房子了。Look at him, already senile. Soon we'll dump him in a nursing home and finally get the house. Jenna had said it with such casual cruelty, like she was commenting on the weather. Her brother had laughed the loudest, slapping his knee. My son Derek stood right there, smiling blankly, not understanding the language but wanting to fit in with his wife's family, wanting to be part of the joke even if the joke was on him, or on me, or on both of us. I'd stood very still, the way you do when you're trying not to let your hands shake. I was 78, not senile. My mind was sharp as it had ever been. I still did the crossword every morning, still managed my own finances, still drove myself to the grocery store and church and the VA hospital for my annual checkups. But to Jenna, I was already a problem to be solved, an obstacle between her and the 3-bedroom ranch house worth about $240,000 in today's market. I'd stayed at that party for another 40 minutes, smiled, ate a piece of birthday cake, talked to Derek about the Bengals' disappointing season. And when I left, I walked to the front door, turned back to the living room where Jenna's family was gathered, and said in perfect Mandarin, 谢谢你们的派对，食物很好吃. Thank you for the party. The food was excellent. The room went silent, like someone had hit a mute button. Jenna's face had drained of color. Her mother's mouth fell open. Derek looked confused, glancing between me and his wife. I just nodded politely and walked out to my 2011 Toyota Camry, got in, and drove home with my hands tight on the steering wheel. I didn't cry until I was in my own driveway. Now, sitting in Craig's office, I slid the signed documents back across the desk. How long until the sale closes? Buyer's paying cash, so maybe 3 weeks, Craig said. Ken, does Derek know you're doing this? Not yet. He's going to have questions. I imagine so. Craig leaned back in his chair, studying me. We'd known each other a long time. He'd handled Margaret's will, helped me with some tax issues, set up my basic estate planning. He was a good man, a deacon at First Baptist. You've been in that house almost 45 years. 46, I corrected. Long time to stay in one place. You got somewhere lined up? Senior apartment over on Wilmington Pike. 1 bedroom, kitchenette. It's clean, affordable. I toured it last week. They've got a shuttle to the grocery store, activities if I want them. I don't need much space anymore. What I didn't say, I didn't want to be a burden. Didn't want to be the confused old man taking up room in his son's future inheritance. Didn't want to give Jenna the satisfaction of putting me somewhere I didn't choose myself. Craig was quiet a moment. Then he said, "Your business, Ken, but if you need anything, you call me." I will. Actually, there's one more thing. I pulled a folded paper from my jacket pocket. I want to make some changes to my will, and I want to set up a couple of things while I'm still here to see them. I'd been thinking about this for months, really, ever since the barbecue, but if I was honest, even before that, little moments. Jenna rolling her eyes when I told a story she'd heard before. The way she'd loudly suggest I might want to rest when friends came over, like I was embarrassing her. How she'd started answering questions directed at me, as if I couldn't speak for myself. But it wasn't just about Jenna. It was about what kind of man I wanted to be at the end of my life. Margaret and I had raised Derek, to be honest, hardworking, respectful. Somewhere along the way, he'd lost his backbone, or maybe I'd failed to give him one. Either way, I couldn't control that now. What I could control was what I did with what I'd built. Go ahead, Craig said, picking up his pen. First, I want to set up a transfer. $25,000 to my nephew Travis. He's Derek's cousin, my brother's boy, lives over in Franklin, working 2 jobs, raising his daughter Kayla alone since his wife left. Good kid, well, he's 39 now, but you know what I mean. He's struggling, doing it right. Craig wrote it down. Okay, what else? $10,000 to St. Vincent de Paul Society, another 10 to the local food bank, 5 to the literacy program at the library. Margaret had volunteered there for years, teaching adults to read. It meant something to her. And for Derek? I took a breath. Derek gets $5,000 cash and Margaret's grandmother's china set. The rest of the estate, after the apartment and funeral expenses, gets split between Travis and the charities I mentioned. Craig's pen stopped moving. He looked up at me. Ken, that's a significant change from your current will. I know. Derek's your only child. I know that too. He could contest it. Let him try. My voice came out harder than I meant. I softened it. Craig, I'm not doing this out of spite. I'm doing it because I spent 50 years working hard, saving money, building something. I want it to go to people who'll use it right, who need it, who'll appreciate it. Derek makes good money as an engineer. He and Jenna have new cars, take vacations. They don't need my money, and more importantly, they don't respect what it took to earn it. Craig studied me for a long moment. Then he nodded. I'll draw up the paperwork. You'll need to sign in front of witnesses. I can come back Friday. Friday works. I stood up, shook his hand. My knees ached a little. They always did after sitting too long, but I walked out of that office feeling lighter than I had in years. The call from Derek came 3 days later on a Friday evening. I was in my new apartment. I'd moved in 2 days before, hired some guys from church to help with the furniture I was keeping, donated the rest. The place was small, but clean, big windows facing east, so I got good morning light. I was microwaving some soup when my phone rang. Dad? Derek's voice sounded strained. Dad, what the hell's going on? I turned off the microwave. Hello, son. How are you? How am I? Dad, I just got a call from a realtor saying our old house, your house, just sold. She's asking about final walkthrough dates. What is she talking about? I sold the house, Derek. Needed to downsize. Silence. Then, you sold it? Without even telling me? It was my house to sell. Dad, where are you living? Are you okay? Did something happen? I sat down at my small kitchen table. Through the window, I could see the parking lot. A few other seniors coming and going. I'm fine. I'm in a senior apartment on Wilmington Pike. It's a good place. A senior apartment? Why? Dad, if you needed help, if the house was too much, Jenna and I could have... Could have what, Derek? I kept my voice calm. Helped me? Or put me in a nursing home so you could have the house? Another silence, longer this time. What are you talking about? Your wife made her plans pretty clear at your birthday party. Dad, I don't... She was speaking Chinese, Derek, Mandarin specifically, talking to her family about how senile I was getting, how soon they'd put me away and get the house. They all had a good laugh about it. I could hear him breathing on the other end. Dad, Jenna wouldn't... You don't even speak Chinese. Actually, I do, fluently. I lived in Taiwan for 2 years in the early 70s, working for Morrison Industrial. I never mentioned it because it never came up. But I understood every word she said for the past 3 years. The silence now was complete. I could picture Derek standing in his kitchen, the one with the granite countertops and stainless steel appliances, trying to process this. That's why you said that when you left, he finally said, his voice quiet. That's why you thanked her in Chinese. Yes. Dad, Jesus, I didn't know. She never told me she didn't tell you because she didn't think I understood. and you laughed along because you wanted to fit in with her family, even though you had no idea what was funny. I wasn't angry anymore, just tired. Derek, I raised you better than that. Dad, please, let me talk to Jenna. Let me figure this out. You don't have to. I've already done it, son. House is sold. I've moved. I'm settled. But where's all your stuff? Your furniture? Mom's things? Kept what I needed, donated the rest. I did keep your mother's china set. It's packed up for you. You can pick it up whenever you want. I don't want the damn china, Dad. I want... His voice cracked. This is crazy. You're making a huge decision because of a misunderstanding. It wasn't a misunderstanding, Derek. My soup was getting cold, but I didn't care. It was clarity. For the first time in a long time, I saw exactly how things were, and I decided I wasn't going to wait around to become a burden or a punchline. You're not a burden. Good. Then you won't mind that I'm taking care of myself. I heard a woman's voice in the background, Jenna, asking what was wrong. Derek's muffled response. Then he came back on the line. Dad, let me come see you. Tomorrow, let's talk about this face to face. There's not much to talk about. Please. I closed my eyes. He was still my son. Still the boy I'd taught to ride a bike, to throw a curveball, to change a tire. All right. Tomorrow, 2 o'clock. I'll text you the address. Okay, thank you. Dad, see you tomorrow, Derek. I hung up before he could finish. My hands were shaking a little, but not from fear, from something else. Something that felt almost like freedom. Derek showed up at 1:30, half an hour early. I was sitting in the small lobby of Meadowbrook Senior Living when I saw his truck pull into the parking lot. The black Ford F-150 he'd bought last year, still shiny and perfect. He sat in the cab for a full minute before getting out, and I could see him gripping the steering wheel, preparing himself. I stayed where I was, in one of the lobby chairs near the window. Mrs. Patricia from down the hall was doing a jigsaw puzzle at the corner table, and Mr. George was reading the newspaper. Normal Saturday afternoon. Peaceful, even. Derek came through the door looking like he hadn't slept. His hair was messed up, and he was wearing an old Ohio State sweatshirt I'd bought him maybe 15 years ago. His eyes found me immediately. Dad. Derek. I stood up, shook his hand. It felt formal, awkward. You want to go up to my apartment or talk down here? Let's go up. We took the elevator to the 3rd floor in silence. The hallway smelled like someone's pot roast cooking. I unlocked my door, apartment 3C, and let him in. He stopped just inside, looking around. The living room was maybe a quarter the size of what I'd had before. My old recliner sat by the window, small TV on a stand, a bookshelf with Margaret's Bible, my John Grisham novels, some photo albums. The kitchen was a galley style, barely room for one person. This is it, Derek said quietly. This is it. It's enough. He turned to look at me, and his eyes were red. Dad, this is crazy. You had a whole house. You had space, a yard, everything paid off, and I sold it. Sit down, Derek. He sat on my small couch. I took the recliner. For a moment, we just looked at each other, father and son, across a space that felt much wider than 6 feet. Tell me the truth, Derek said. Is this really about what Jenna said, or is something else going on? Are you sick? Did a doctor tell you something? I'm healthy as a man my age can expect to be. Blood pressure's a little high, knees hurt, but nothing serious. Then why? Why would you just uproot everything without even talking to me? I leaned back, felt the familiar comfort of my old chair. Derek, do you remember when you were 16 and you wanted to quit the baseball team because Tommy Chen was giving you a hard time? He blinked, thrown by the change of subject. Yeah, you told me I had to stick it out. I told you that a man doesn't run from his problems, but he also doesn't stay where he's not respected. I told you to handle it straight on, and if it didn't get better, we'd make a change together. You remember what you did? I talked to Coach Martinez. He dealt with Tommy. Season got better. Right, you confronted the problem with dignity. I folded my hands in my lap. Son, I'm doing the same thing now. I confronted the problem, Jenna's disrespect, your willingness to go along with it, and now I'm making a change, not running away, just refusing to stay where I'm not valued. Derek's jaw tightened. I value you, Dad. I love you. Do you? The question came out softer than I intended, because from where I stood at your birthday party, watching you laugh along with jokes you didn't understand, watching you let your wife treat me like I was already gone, it didn't feel like love, Derek. It felt like you'd already moved on. He flinched like I'd slapped him. That's not fair. Maybe not, but it's true. I took a breath. After your mother died, you called every week for about 3 months. Then it was every other week, then once a month, then just holidays and birthdays. And I understood. You have your own life, your marriage, your career. I never wanted to be the needy parent. But Derek, you brought me into your home, into your family gatherings, and you let your wife mock me in a language she thought I couldn't understand. You never once asked if I was okay, if I was lonely, if I needed anything. You just assumed I was fine because it was easier. His face had gone pale. Dad, I didn't know she was saying those things. I swear to God, I didn't know. But you knew something was off, didn't you? You had to feel it. The way she'd suggest I leave early from visits, the way she'd talk over me, the little comments about my age, my memory. You heard all that and you never said a word. Derek put his face in his hands. His shoulders shook. When he spoke, his voice was muffled. I wanted her to be happy. I wanted her family to like me. I thought if I just went along, kept the peace, you'd keep your marriage together? He nodded, not looking up. I felt a wave of sadness wash over me, but also something else. Pity, maybe. Son, a marriage built on throwing other people under the bus isn't worth keeping together. He looked up at me then, tears on his face. I know, God, Dad, I know. I confronted her last night after you called. I asked her what she'd said at the party. She denied it at first, then admitted it, said it was just a joke, that her family has a dark sense of humor. I told her it wasn't funny. We fought for 3 hours. She's at her parents' house right now. I'm sorry for that. Are you? There was an edge to his voice now. Because you could have told me privately. You could have come to me first, instead of humiliating her in front of her entire family. I met his eyes steadily. Derek, I lived with that humiliation for 3 years. Every family dinner, every holiday, every casual visit. I heard her talking about me like I was an inconvenient piece of furniture. I heard her parents criticize everything about me, about our family, about how Americans don't take care of their elders properly. I heard her brother joke about whether my Social Security checks would keep coming after I died. And I said nothing because I loved you and I wanted you to be happy. My voice didn't rise, but it got harder. So no, son, I don't feel guilty about letting her know that I understood. She earned that moment. Derek was quiet for a long time. Outside my window, I could hear kids playing in the apartment complex across the street, their voices high and happy, life going on like it always does. What happens now? Derek finally asked. I'm living here. It's peaceful. I've made a couple of friends. George downstairs is a Korean War vet, plays a mean game of chess. I've been going to a different church, smaller place, nice people. I'm fine, Derek. And us? That's up to you. I leaned forward. I'm your father. I'll always be your father. But I'm not going to be disrespected in my last years on this earth, not even for your sake. If you want a relationship with me, I'm here. But it has to be real. No more pretending everything's fine when it's not. He wiped his face with his sleeve. I want that. I do. Then you need to figure out your marriage, and you need to decide what kind of man you want to be. The kind who stands up for what's right, or the kind who goes along to get along. Derek nodded slowly. He looked around the apartment again. You really okay here? You have enough money? I'm fine. Actually, that's something else we need to talk about. I stood up, went to my small desk, and pulled out an envelope. Inside was a copy of my new will and a cashier's check. I handed both to him. He opened the envelope, looked at the check first. $5,000? Dad, what is this? It's your inheritance. Well, part of it. You'll get your mother's china, too. His eyes went to the will. I watched him read it, saw his face change as he understood what I'd done. When he looked up, he was pale again. You gave most of it to Travis and charities? Yes. Dad, that's not... You can't just... I can, and I did. It's my money, Derek. I earned it. And I'm giving it to people who need it and will appreciate it. This is because of Jenna. You're punishing me because... No. I cut him off. This is because Travis is raising his daughter alone on $30,000 a year, working himself to death to give her a chance at college. This is because St. Vincent de Paul feeds people who are hungry. This is because the library literacy program gave your mother purpose after you left home. This is about what's right, not what's revenge. Derek stood up, the papers shaking in his hands. So, what am I supposed to think? That you don't love me anymore? That I don't matter? You got $5,000 and your mother's most precious possession. That's more than a lot of people get. It's enough to show I care, but not enough to reward the way you've acted. I kept my voice gentle, but firm. Derek, your mother and I never gave you everything you wanted. We gave you what you needed, and we taught you to work for the rest. I'm doing the same thing now. He stared at me like he was seeing a stranger. Maybe he was. Maybe I'd been too soft for too long, and he'd forgotten that his old man had a spine. I need to go, he said, his voice tight. All right. He walked to the door, stopped with his hand on the knob. Does Travis know about the money? Not yet. I'm driving out to Franklin next week to tell him in person. Derek nodded, not turning around. I hope it makes you happy, Dad. I hope all of this makes you happy. He left before I could respond. I heard his footsteps in the hallway, the elevator ding, then silence. I sat back down in my recliner and looked out the window. The sun was starting to set, painting the sky pink and orange. My chest felt tight, but not with regret. With grief, maybe. With the strange pain of doing the right thing when it costs you something precious. But I'd meant what I said. I'd raised Derek to be better than this. And if he needed this wake-up call to find his backbone again, then so be it. 3 weeks passed before Derek called again. I'd gone to Franklin in the meantime, had coffee with Travis at a little diner off I-75. When I told him about the money, he'd actually cried, big, shaking sobs that embarrassed him but touched me deeply. He tried to refuse at first, said it was too much, but I told him Margaret would have wanted it. She'd always had a soft spot for Travis ever since he was a kid, showing up at our house with holes in his shoes and pride too strong to ask for help. Use it for Kayla's school, I'd said, and maybe take a day off once in a while. You're no good to her if you work yourself to death. He'd promised he would. When Derek finally called, his voice sounded different. Steadier, maybe, more like the boy I'd raised. Dad, can I come see you again? Of course. Tomorrow? I'll be here. This time, he showed up exactly at 2 o'clock. When I opened the door, Jenna wasn't with him, but I could see he'd been doing some hard thinking. His eyes were clearer. We sat in the same spots as before, but the air felt different. I've been in counseling, Derek said without preamble. Individual, not couples. I needed to figure some things out. That's good, son. Jenna and I are separated. She's staying with her parents. We're talking about what comes next, but honestly, I don't know if there's a path forward. When I really thought about it, about how she talked about you, about how I let it happen, I couldn't defend it. Couldn't defend her, couldn't defend myself. I didn't say anything, just listened. My therapist asked me when I stopped being myself, when I started just going along with everything to keep the peace. And Dad, I realized it started way before Jenna. It started in college, maybe. Somewhere along the way, I got scared. Scared of conflict, scared of disappointing people, scared of being alone. So I just became whatever people wanted me to be. Derek, let me finish. He took a breath. I was angry at you for weeks. About the will, about the house, all of it. I thought you were being cruel, punishing me. But then I went to see Travis. That surprised me. You did? Yeah. Drove out there last Saturday. Met Kayla. She's amazing, Dad. Smart as hell, working part-time at Target while taking classes. And Travis, he's good. He's struggling, but he's good. And when he told me what you did for him, how you showed up and changed his life, I realized something. Derek's voice cracked. You didn't stop loving me. You just loved him too. And he needed it more. Tears were running down my face now. I didn't try to hide them. I'm not asking you to change the will, Derek continued. I'm not asking for anything, really. I just wanted you to know that I get it now, and I'm sorry. I'm so damn sorry for how I let you be treated, for not standing up, for not being the son you deserved. I reached across the space between us and gripped his shoulder. You're being that son right now. We both cried then, not saying anything, just letting years of hurt and distance wash out in that small apartment with the afternoon light coming through the windows. When we'd both collected ourselves, Derek wiped his face and gave me a shaky smile. So, George downstairs really any good at chess? He's terrible, but he's convinced he's a grandmaster. Think he'd teach me? I could come by on Saturdays. I think he'd like that. I'd like it too. Derek stood up to leave, and this time when we hugged, it felt real. When he pulled back, he said, Mom would have been proud of you, you know, for all of this. Your mother would have handled this whole situation better than I did. She always knew the right thing to say. Maybe, but you knew the right thing to do. 6 months have passed since that conversation. It's August now, and the Ohio heat is thick and heavy, the kind that makes the air shimmer over the parking lot. I'm sitting on the small patio outside my apartment, drinking iced tea and watching the world go by. Derek comes by most Saturdays. Sometimes we play chess with George, sometimes we just sit and talk. He and Jenna are getting divorced. It's amicable enough, no kids to complicate things, just two people who realize they didn't really know each other. He's dating someone new, a woman named Lindsay, who teaches third grade and laughs at his terrible jokes. I like her. Travis used the money to pay off his car and put a significant chunk toward Kayla's tuition. She's going to finish her associate's degree next spring, then transfer to a 4-year school. Travis sent me a Christmas card last year with a photo of them both, smiling, looking happy and healthy. I keep it on my refrigerator. The charities sent nice letters thanking me for the donations. St. Vincent de Paul named me Volunteer of the Month, even though I just write them checks and occasionally help serve meals on Thursdays. It feels good, being useful. I'm not lonely. That's the surprising part. I thought I might be, living alone in this small space, but I'm not. I have coffee with Patricia most mornings. She's sharp as a tack and tells stories about working as a nurse in Vietnam that would curl your hair. George and I watch baseball games together. The church I found, Hope Community Fellowship, is full of good people who actually seem to care about living out what they claim to believe, not just showing up on Sundays to be seen. And most importantly, I have my dignity back. I have peace. I'm not waiting for the other shoe to drop, not bracing myself for the next casual insult or dismissive comment. I'm just living on my own terms, in a way that honors what Margaret and I built together. Sometimes I think about that moment at Derek's birthday party, standing there with my paper plate, listening to Jenna's laughter. I think about how small I felt, how invisible. And then I think about turning around and speaking those simple words in Mandarin, watching the room freeze, walking out with my head high. I'm not a vengeful man, never have been, never will be. But I'm not a doormat either. The Bible says to honor your father and mother, but it also says not to exasperate your children. I think there's wisdom in both directions. Parents and children owing each other respect, dignity, truth. I didn't abandon Derek. I just stopped enabling him to abandon himself. Yesterday, he called me from his lunch break just to talk. Told me about a project at work, about Lindsay's cat that hates him, about thinking of taking a vacation to Myrtle Beach. Normal stuff, father and son stuff. Before he hung up, he said, "Love you, Dad. Love you too, son." And I meant it. With everything in me, I meant it. The sun is setting now, painting the sky in those same pink and orange shades I saw 6 months ago when Derek walked out of here angry and hurt. But tonight feels different. Tonight feels like the ending of something hard and the beginning of something better. I finish my iced tea, stand up with a small grunt. These knees aren't getting any younger, and head inside. There's a potluck dinner downstairs at 6, and I promised Patricia I'd bring my famous potato salad. Margaret's recipe, the one she got from her mother. As I pull the bowl from the refrigerator, I catch sight of myself in the small mirror by the door. 78 years old, gray hair, wrinkles, age spots on my hands. But my eyes are clear, my shoulders are straight. I look like a man who knows who he is. And that, I think, as I head down to join my friends, is worth more than any house, any inheritance, any false peace bought with silence. That's worth everything.